start with the most encouraging news yet in the race to develop an effective COVID-19 treatment. Tonight, doctors have a new weapon in their fight to save lives, an experimental drug fresh off human trials that, according to Dr. Anthony Fauci, has cut recovery times for extremely sick patients and will be the standard of care. The FDA expected to grant emergency approval of the drug, coming none too soon as COVID deaths in the U.S. today climbed above 60,000. And that's where our reporting begins tonight. First, Tom Costello.
For doctors and nurses on the front lines, a new weapon in the fight against COVID-19, an antiviral medication proven effective in clinical trials. Dr. Fauci announced the breakthrough at the White House.
The data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. This is really quite important.
The drug is remdesivir, made by Gilead Sciences. It comes in IV form, administered to the sickest COVID patients. The drug trials involved nearly 1,100 people worldwide. The preliminary NIH data showed remdesivir cut the recovery time in the hospital from 15 to 11 days. The mortality rate also dropped, though not dramatically, from 11.6% for those on the placebo to 8% for those on remdesivir.
I narrowly avoided a ventilator.
Arnold Wegg, himself a doctor, was given remdesivir in the ICU along with an anti-inflammatory drug, Actemra. He says he quickly began recovering.
My personal experience with the remdesivir and the Actemra make me feel very strongly that it should be used.
This is remdesivir versus placebo for one of our patients.
Emory University Hospital in Atlanta ran the largest of the NIH clinical trials.
Remdesivir will get many of our patients home to their families more rapidly and with less side effects.
Remdesivir was originally designed to treat Ebola patients, but for 7 years, researchers at Vanderbilt University have been convinced it could save lives in a new coronavirus pandemic.
I'm very encouraged and I'm very optimistic, particularly if we think of using this in patients as they have earlier disease and are progressing.
Sickest you've ever been.
Sickest I've ever been, yes.
In Philadelphia, Mike DeWan was on a ventilator for 17 days. Doctors gave him remdesivir as a last resort.
Because he was so sick. And they were kind of thinking, we have nothing to lose. If it can help him, great. Because he was, needing something.
Tonight, the president is calling on the FDA to quickly approve remdesivir as a frontline go-to treatment. It can only be given in IV form in a hospital. The NIH findings are so far not peer-reviewed, but Gilead is ramping up production of the drug. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello, thanks. Let's bring in Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He's the former commissioner of the FDA and a CNBC contributor. Doctor, you said today this isn't a home run, but you're encouraged. A lot of people, as you know, are looking for any sign of hope right now. What should they make of this?
Well, I think this is an important beginning. This drug does appear to be active against the virus, and I think used properly in the course of probably early disease when people first present to the hospital, particularly patients who are at higher risk for a bad outcome, it does appear that this drug has the potential to benefit some patients. The drug clearly showed activity against the virus in this trial. This was a rigorously conducted trial. And I think as we head into the fall, when we're likely to face the risk of larger outbreaks of coronavirus after we get through this current epidemic, we're going to want to have a much more effective toolbox. And this drug can be part of that toolbox, coupled with better screening for the infection, and maybe coupled with some additional drugs that could win approval sometime this fall. We might have a much better toolbox for dealing with COVID-19 that reduces the risk of the infection for most Americans.
All right, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, thank you very much. Now to some dramatic scenes of people defying orders to keep their distance, and tonight the debate intensifying over how to enforce social distancing. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
In the age of social distancing, it was a shocking sight. Thousands of mourners in Brooklyn at a rabbi's funeral.
You are putting my cops' lives at risk, and it's unacceptable.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says he's instructing the NYPD to cite or arrest anyone who disobeys a social distancing order.
No, it's not like people gathering in the park. It was thousands of people.
More images are also surfacing of the homeless sleeping on New York's subway system. The governor is now asking the transit authority to disinfect every train every night.
It's disrespectful to the essential workers who need to ride the subway system.
From beaches in California to this house party in Chicago, local governments are struggling to crack down on social distancing orders. New York State recently raised the maximum fine to $1,000. Now some towns in Massachusetts are doing the same for face coverings.
What authority do these cities have to really enforce social distancing?
The most important authority that any community has is moral authority. Understanding that by distancing, not only are you protecting yourself, but others also.
In many metro areas, walking down the sidewalk, it's tough to stay 6 feet away from anyone. So New York City is planning to close off at least 40 miles of streets to vehicles and free up more space for pedestrians. The death toll here at the epicenter is still topping 300 every day. Zoe Mungeon was a beloved teacher in Brooklyn who died after a 6-week battle with COVID-19. Her sister, a nurse herself, says she was denied a coronavirus test twice.
They let her die. The healthcare system failed her. And I can't tell how many times that I begged and pleaded and I asked for someone to save her life.
A system stretched to its limits. Earlier this week, ER doctor Lorna Breen took her own life. Her sister is now speaking to Savannah Guthrie in an exclusive interview to air tomorrow on Today.
She had 12-hour shifts. And when she finished, she said, "I can't leave. Nobody's leaving. I have to stay and help." She would not give up. She would not let it break her, which of course it did.
Another agonizing reason, authorities say, for Americans to stay home. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, New York.
I'm Miguel Almaguer. By the end of this week, 1 out of every 3 Americans, or roughly 116 million people, will see stay-at-home orders eased in their state. Texas and Florida among the largest, hoping to get their economies back on track.
What is our biggest obstacle? Fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear sparked by constant doom and gloom and hysteria that has permeated our culture.
By Friday, at least 20 states will lift many mandates, though restrictions remain widely in place. In Montana, churches resume services, while restaurants and bars can soon serve customers if they keep diners apart. Ohio planning to allow construction and manufacturing to resume too.
There is definitely a leap of faith in this that's a little bit scary.
All the states set to reopen do share one thing in common. None have met the White House guidelines calling for a 14-day drop in coronavirus cases.
When we take a step forward, we don't want to take 2 steps back.
As states like California prepare to enter their 7th week in lockdown, new research tracking cell phone movements shows a national decline of Americans keeping their social distance. With Californians anxious to get out of the house, public spaces like parks and trails could reopen in a matter of weeks. But getting a haircut or going to a movie theater in downtown may not happen for months. In Colorado, the stay-at-home order just expired, but today restaurant owner Clay Maxwell is closing for good.
This is not something we can bounce back from, which is what led us to the decision to close our doors.
Tonight, one crisis creating another as Americans move into a new normal. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
All right, now to the nation's food supply and fallout from the president ordering meat plants to stay open as many of their workers fall ill and consumers could be hit by higher prices and fewer options. Here's Blaine Alexander.
Tonight, a food supply chain strained by COVID-19.
It was a bottleneck caused by this whole pandemic.
Now, relief, the president says, in the form of his executive order invoking the Defense Production Act, ordering all meat plants to stay open, dubbing them critical infrastructure. More than a dozen forced to shut down as COVID-19 spread among employees. Now, President Trump says those companies will get liability protections.
They were being very unfairly treated. So the farmers are very happy, and the ranchers and the companies.
Smithfield and Tyson Foods are praising the president's order, but many workers are not.
I would really like to see them test everybody.
Dustin Hibbs is back on the job after the JBS plant in Greenlee, Colorado reopened following a coronavirus outbreak.
I was working next to a guy and we kept bumping into each other. And my first worry was, what if he has the virus?
With more than 5,000 workers impacted by COVID-19, unions are demanding protections, including more testing.
How much is a life worth
as opposed to beef, pork, and chicken. That is a decision that we have to make because that worker makes it every day when they go to work.
Now, new concerns about panic buying. Experts predict up to a month of lag time before the order makes an impact at the grocery store. Until then, some products may run low.
We're going to see some empty shelves in the meat and poultry counters, whether it is, a rack of ribs, or if it is a bratwurst, or if it is a summer sausage.
Meaning fewer selections, but the supply, experts say, is stable. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
And tonight, President Trump weighing in on those White House guidelines on stopping the spread of the virus a day before they expire. Kristen Welker is at the White House.
With the White House social distancing guidelines set to expire tomorrow, President Trump says he is not planning to extend them.
They'll be fading out because now the governors are doing it.
But doing enough testing continues to be a hurdle to reopening. A new Harvard study shows the country needs 5 million tests a day to reopen safely. On Tuesday, President Trump told me the administration would meet that benchmark.
I hear you saying you're confident you can surpass 5 million tests per day. Is that?
Well, we're going to be there very soon.
But his own top official overseeing testing strategy told Time magazine in an interview released late last night, there is absolutely no way on Earth, on this planet or any other planet, that we can do 20 million tests a day or even 5 million tests a day. Today, the president tried to walk back his comments from yesterday.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it, but somebody came out with a report saying 5 million. I think that was from the Harvard report. But we are going to be there at a certain point. We'll be there.
Currently, just over 200,000 tests are performed a day, but the administration rolled out a plan this week to boost those numbers. Meantime, the president's son-in-law and top advisor, Jared Kushner, had this to say.
The government, federal government, rose to the challenge, and this is a great success story. And I think that that's really, what needs to be told.
Those comments coming against the backdrop of a death toll now at more than 60,000. Kristen Welker, NBC News, the White House.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.